Hello people, hope you're keeping in good health. I greet you all. Last time we looked at the course of the Great Trek, how the Boers moved from the Cape Colony into the interior of Southern Africa. So today we are going to look at the challenges faced by the trekkers as they were moving from the Cape Colony to the interior of East Africa. The challenges, the problems they faced. They clashed with African tribes. We've already noted as they were moving from the Cape Colony to the interior, they met many African societies. The second group met the Ndebele people, and they ended up fighting each other in the Battle of Venkop. And then the third group, led by Pietro Etief, clashed with the Zulu and ended up fighting in the Battle of Blood River. And that was a big challenge to these foreigners who are getting into the interior of Southern Africa, and many of them died of diseases, for example malaria, smallpox. We note that at the Cape, because of the Mediterranean climate, malaria was not common, but as they pushed into the interior where there was serious tropical climate, they were faced with these tropical diseases, and at the same time their animals were affected by rinderpest and nagana. Remember, they moved with their cattle, so their animals were also affected by diseases. As they pushed into the interior, the climate at the Cape was quite different from the climate in the interior, so they faced the problem of the hostile climate, tropical climate, which they were not used to, and this also affected their movements. At the same time, the ox wagons they were using were very slow. Sometimes they would break down and they would take some time to fast work on these wagons. So this meant that this slowed down their movements, which was a big challenge. And remember, we are talking about Southern Africa before many forests were cut down, so we were also attacked by many wild animals. And for those African societies they interacted with, they eventually ended up stealing Boer cattle from them. So they lost most of their cattle to the Africans. And the further they moved into the interior of Southern Africa, they ran short of gunpowder, which was necessary if they were to ensure their security. They ran short of food and other consumer goods, which was really challenging. Yet at the same time, much as before their movement, they had sent scouts into the interior to find out if there was land. They were moving in a foreign land. They had inadequate geographical knowledge of the places they were going to, so many times they could get lost, and this turned out to be an advantage to the Africans who decided instead to steal their property. They also had even conflicts amongst themselves, the Boer leaders themselves and the Boers themselves, which was challenging. In the many wars they fought with the Africans, they lost their leaders. For example, the third group that was led by Pietro Etief, when they returned, when Pietro Etief returned the cattle that Dingane had requested for, Dingane ended up killing Pietro Etief and the other Boers he had with. So they lost their leaders. And remember, they had to cross rivers and mountains, which was challenging. At one time, they had to cross Orange River, they had to cross Raval River, they had to cross the Drakensberg Mountains, and with ox wagons, this was challenging, and this slowed down their movements. And because they had shortage of gunpowder and other guns to defend themselves, many times they were defeated because they were militarily weak compared to the African societies, most especially the Zulu, who had been exposed to foreign weapons. So they were militarily weak, and many times they were defeated by these African societies. Then the other biggest challenge the Boers faced as they were moving into the interior, they were moving away from the Cape, thinking that they were running away from British influence. Unfortunately, the British followed them, and even the republics like Orange Free State and Natal Republic that they had established were eventually taken away from them by the British. So The British presence, the British system of following them was one of the major problems the Boers faced as they pushed into the interior of southern Africa. And then they also faced a challenge of educating their children. Remember, they are moving away from the Cape Colony where they had schools, they had established schools. But as they pushed into the interior, they could not get places where they could educate their children. In conclusion, the problems faced by the Boer trekkers were political, economic, and social. But despite such challenges, they managed to establish themselves in the interior by putting up Boer republics of Orange Free State, Natal Republic, and then Transvaal Republic. I'm going to leave you with an activity for you to explain the challenges faced by the Boer trekkers in the interior of southern Africa. For more information, please visit the link below. Next time, we shall be looking at the wars that were fought between the Boers and the African societies. That is the Battle of Venkop that was fought between the Boers and the Ndebele people, and we shall also look at the Battle of Blood River that was fought between the Boers and the Zulu people. Otherwise, I wish you good health and have a good holiday. Thank you. Bye.